We have touched upon the topic of spiritual awakening many times, but there are always questions that come up. And usually the questions come up because the seeker experiences turbulence, emotional turbulence. So how do we know that an awakening has happened? First of all, what is awakening? Awakening is a crack in the structure of the separate self, or identification with the personality. When this sense of separateness experiences a crack, there is pain and suffering. For the simple reason, because mind is conditioned to old ways, old patterns, old beliefs, old ideas that it has gathered through prior conditioning. Starting from the place of your birth, to your religion, to the values that were handed over to you by your relatives, caretakers, by your environment, schooling, friends, so many factors. Now, mind, having glimpsed the eternal truth, the wholeness, the completeness, cannot come to terms with its own illusory existence. So there is a natural conflict. That is why when awakening happens, it is generally not a comfortable time. In fact, the first phase of it is marked by chaos, confusion, conflict, and depression, which in the classic spiritual literature is also referred to as the dark night of the soul. And many people are very conflicted about this because they think that spiritual awakening should bring out this euphoria and the person should remain in permanent, perpetual bliss, which is not possible, which has not been seen throughout history. If you see the cases of Sufi mystics and other sages, after awakening, they exhibited so much emotion. They would cry sitting in front of the mosque, in front of the temples, and ask, Lord, why have you forsaken me? So it is not true that awakening will instantly bring perpetual bliss, dropping all past patterns. In fact, it starts the other way. First, there is a conflict. The first conflict is one starts feeling a little isolated because the mind is used to, when we were young, we were told the importance of social gatherings, attending social functions, taking participation in things, being upfront, forward. And we gathered all that information from our caretakers because they wanted us to be a certain way. So we thought that partying, dating, and pursuing a romantic search for the opposite gender, that all those things were really what life was about. But now, having glimpsed wholeness, a different level of awareness, a different level of love has been experienced. So the mind naturally becomes a little unsettled. It questions, it says, am I doing the right thing or am I moving in the wrong direction? What if I'm just wasting time and I end up alone, isolated, and die a painful death? That is one of the biggest fears. So, there is this dilemma, should I be more social or should I not be more social? But even if you try to, you just can't go back to that old routine, old life, old beliefs. Because wholeness has its own pull. And the pull is so strong that you cannot resist it, which forces you to sit and contemplate the nature of reality. So obviously, socializing and participating in social and other events, that begins to dissolve, as a result of which friendships start crumbling, relationships start crumbling. Now, people who are really close to you and who really respect you and understand you and who can relate to what you're going through will give you the time and space to process, to go through this process. But majority of people will think that there is something wrong with you, that somehow you are experiencing some kind of a depression and some kind of a psychological turbulence that needs to be addressed through certain modalities. And they will show concern, and they will sometimes resort to even to passive aggression to prove their point. Why are you wasting your life? You don't know what's going to happen to you if you don't do this or if you don't do that. However, your mind is now arrested because, having glimpsed wholeness, it can do nothing but contemplate on that. So you keep wondering why you're not able to follow the old patterns. And some friendships you break yourself. Some relationships you don't even pay any attention to them, and then you come across as insensitive, as antisocial. Not antisocial, I think that's a strong word, but yes, insensitive, selfish. And yes, there is a minor component of selfishness in that, but you see, that is but natural. Because see, when you get a hurt in your body, let's say you get a cut somewhere, won't you attend to that hurt? Or will you think about others? Will you think about what others are thinking, feeling? How should I talk to them? What should I talk to them? No, you're going to tend to the hurt. So that actually is not selfish. That is designed by nature. It's by nature's design that you will naturally do that. Your consciousness will go to that wound. Similarly, there has been a crack in the structure of your personality, which is a big deal. So obviously, the mind will contemplate on that. So I don't see that as pure selfishness. But a little bit of selfishness is required, because attention naturally will go to that. You will question. You will question everything from traditional beliefs to old concepts to people's differing views. And your mind will be restless in those moments. And that is why this period immediately after awakening is painful for many. You will experience alternating moments of bliss, euphoria, followed by lows and depression. Now, the intensity of emotions that you experience after awakening will be very high, in the sense that you will feel the emotion in all its purity, because your mind has now become sharp. Having experienced that crack, it has become now sharp and vigilant to whatever is arising. So when the pain arises, it will be totally with the pain. It will not try to shut down or downplay anything. It will not question, but experience everything in totality. So you will experience the highs of highs and the lows of lows. And that adds to confusion. After that comes the question, what should I do? Because There comes a time when no hobbies, no interests, nothing actually makes sense. One doesn't enjoy any of those things. And you will be surprised that the hobbies that you had been pursuing since childhood, they just drop in an instant. And it's surprising how and why this is happening. I used to enjoy running, I used to enjoy watching movies. Now I can't sit through a movie anymore. I can't read books. Some people who would be reading a lot, they just can't do it. Even when you are in company of others and you hear gossips or political news or any kind of entertainment news, you will feel like moving away from there. It's of no more interest to you. You will tend to isolate a little and self-reflect. A lot of reflection happens after awakening. Because there is a deeper conflict about what is my purpose of life? What am I doing here? What is living all about? Up till now, I was given a blueprint. Okay, do this, do that, and you will be happy. First, you get good grades in college, life is set. Then you get a good job, life will be better. Then you get married, have family, amazing, awesome life. And then you do well in your job, aspire for more, and finally you retire and then you die. Life is completely set. But now this hammer, this lightning strike by the universe has changed everything. All your plans are like paper boats drowning in water. You were sure that they would sail you through, but they couldn't sustain the current, the flow of life. All the plans finished. Maybe relationship broke, your spouse, partner left, you were thrown out of the job. Maybe some illness came up. Life never went according to the blueprint that was handed to us by the society. That's the thing. And when we are given that blueprint, we are never told that it can go the other way around too. It's not emphasized. So we are told that keep following the blueprint. It's your road to safe and happy living. But what is that happiness? Even if I get whatever I feel I should get, what is the end happiness? Is that happiness sustainable? That nobody questions. And this is what the awakening brings about. It starts questioning the whole purpose and meaning of happiness. Is there true happiness in anything outside of us? Or is it all just stories that we have been told? So, now what happens is, as you contemplate more and more about the purpose of your existence here, the attention is more and more drawn inwards towards this sense of separateness. What is this? What is this I? What is this me that says I must be like this, I must be like that? I was an extrovert, now I have become an introvert and an isolate and a recluse, a lone wolf, and I'm unhappy. I was happy before, but now if I try to be more extroverted, I feel unhappy. I don't want to do that anymore. What has gone wrong? All these questions arise. What am I working for? We can call it midlife crisis, or it seems that there is no meaning in anything. There is no true purpose of anything. So what happens is, there is a constant search for knowing the truth. And this search, this pull is so strong that it keeps us awake at nights. It keeps us awake many nights. But there is no way out of it. The pull of the truth, of knowing the truth, is so strong that the seeker walks and walks and walks. And seeker always walks alone. This is a path, a pathless path that you alone have to walk. There is no help other than wisdom of masters, those who have been through it. They share their experiences. But again, the emotional processing has to be done by you. The dark night of the soul has to be traversed by you. And when you are completely free of all the artificial purposes that you were handed over by society, by people who were close to you, when you are totally free of all those ideas, then your mind opens up to this creative light. Then you find your true purpose. And that purpose is in alignment with your true values. And this has been mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. That if one tries to do duties that one is not in alignment with, one will be unhappy, one will suffer. It is a verse in Bhagavad Gita. So to find your true alignment, your true purpose, first of all, you have to investigate who you really are. Because at this stage, what is happening is you are experiencing a sense of detachment with the old stuff, whatever was in the past. And things and ideas, all those things are breaking down. Your whole world is crumbling down. So it is bound to be painful. It is the most painful thing ever. But then it leads to what Ramesh Balsekar called deliverance, which is peace, which is understanding of one's true nature. And that peace is simply the acceptance of what is, the unaltered and unpredictable flow of life, the total acceptance of it. That is true deliverance, that is true awakening. Till then, the separate self, the cracked ego, suffers. And this has been evident in the case of sages who have been at the feet of their masters crying and asking them to take away their pain. So many people who were experiencing this would come to Sri Ramana Maharishi, bow at his feet and would say, take away this pain, it's too much. Now Ramana Maharishi blessed them, but he knew that ultimately it is the awareness that decides when this pain has to go. The more one accepts their true nature and rests in their being, which is their most natural state, the more comfortable, relatively comfortable this process is. But the suffering that one is destined to, one cannot avoid that. So, your whole attention is now not towards social gatherings or partying or dating or finding romantic partners or watching entertainment on smartphones or playing video games or anything, or going for fancy outings or vacations. Your whole life gets this complete, total attention into the search of truth, the wholeness. Because you already have glimpsed something infinite. And your mind is coming to terms with its own illusory nature. Now, in the last phase of spiritual awakening, when the true deliverance happens, what happens is the elimination of the specialness of separate existence. The feeling that somehow I am special, that this has happened. What is happening to me is unique. That whole feeling, it begins to dissolve. And there is complete union with everything. So, before this phase, we live with this idea that we are special because we are told all of this, by our parents. It's not their fault. It's not society's fault. It's not to blame parents or society for all of this. They are operating through their own default conditioning. But now you are not operating through your default conditioning because something has interrupted the process. So what happens? Simply this happens. Your specialness goes away. The specialness of considering oneself awakened or having unique experiences, that goes away. That is the final blow to the separate self. That is the straw that breaks the camel's back. Now you are free from all worldly pursuits. You are free from the obligation of fulfilling other people's expectations, and you live your own authentic self. You do not compromise anymore. You accommodate and adjust with whatever you can manage, and you live your authentic life. Relationships fall apart. Friendships fall apart. A long period of loneliness is also experienced in this process, but one is ready to embrace everything. Everything. And there is a last cry from the separate self, the cracked ego, which was evident in the case of, I use this as a metaphor, it is symbolism for me, where Jesus cries on the cross and says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Don't take it literally. I'm talking in terms of symbolism, where Jesus says, it is not to say that Jesus had an ego. I'm just trying to say that there is a last cry from the separate self. Oh God, why have you forsaken me? And that is the end of it. Then what happens? Then resurrection happens, which is now this I, this me that has dissolved in the ocean of pure awareness comes up back again, resurrected, but now it is dipped in the light of awareness. So the biological organism, without taking ownership of its actions, operates in its most natural ways. It acts and reacts according to the conditioning it has received, without carrying the load of shame, blame, guilt, malice, spite, envy, jealousy, or any other afflicting emotion on its shoulder. And that is what is peace in daily living.